Warning, I am very, very negative in this video. I'm not always like this, but when I'm talking about the worst Easter egg steps on every single map, I have to be negative. If this is your first time watching me, just know I'm not normally like this. If you want to see me happy, watch this video after. Enjoy. COD Zombies Easter Eggs. Some of them are really good with a lot of fun steps in them, but on the other hand, there are just as many, if not more, bad Easter eggs that are filled with bad steps. And because of this, a few weeks ago I tasked myself with thinking of the worst Easter egg step in every single COD Zombies map. As y'all know, I'm typically not a fan of being overtly negative about zombies, and I generally don't like to spend my time just whining about this mode, but I can't lie, every now and again it is pretty fun. So today, we're gonna go over what I personally think is the single worst Easter egg step in every single Easter egg. From Black Ops 1 to Black Ops 7 with non-Treyarch zombies included, we're gonna go over every single main quest and talk about the step, or steps, that I dislike the most. Before we get in the video, I wanna go over a few things. First off, as usual with my channel, everything that I'm talking about in this video is my own personal opinion. Just because I say in this video that a certain step sucks and I don't like it, doesn't mean that I'm saying that you have to think that as well. If you like any of the steps I mentioned in this video, then good for you. I'm really glad you have different opinions than me. We could really use more independent thinkers in this community. Next, let's go over my criteria. For these Easter eggs, I'm gonna pick actual steps in them. So unless I think it's absolutely necessary because either one, they're just so bad that I have to pick them, or number two, there's just nothing else in the egg I can think of, I'm gonna try my absolute hardest to refrain from picking pack-a-punch quests, wonder-weapon quests, or boss fights. The reason is because I just feel like picking those for every single map would feel like cop-out answers, and my goal for this video was to go for actual steps. With that said though, I am gonna be going back on this a few times in the video, because for a few maps in here, I just could not think of anything else to go with. In general though, pack-a-punch quests, wonder weapon quests, and boss fights are all forbidden. Another thing I did to make this easier is I'm not including any workarounds for any Easter egg steps. In this video, I am judging these steps purely based off of how the developers intended us to beat them. So for example, the fire staff skip on Origins will not be taken into account. And finally, I want to address the elephant in the room. Yes, I used mods to help record this video. It's not because I'm too bad to where I can't beat them. I've beaten every single Easter egg in this video at least like 5 times each, all of which being totally legit with no mods, so I do know what I'm talking about with these. I just use mods to help showcase what I'm talking about better without worrying about dying. I am making a YouTube video after all. The quality comes first. So if you enjoy this video and you want to see me turn this idea on its head and talk about the best Easter egg step in every map, then drop a like, share this video, and subscribe to help us get to 50,000 subscribers. And with that being said, let's start with the first real Easter egg in COD Zombies history with a reward, and that of course is Ascension. Now, there's not much to work with on Ascension, because this is the first Easter egg ever made, and with that, this Easter egg is very short, with no real memorable steps. Unless you want to count shooting Gersh memorable. But with that said, when I was thinking about this, there is one step that instantly came to mind, and that is the 2-minute platform step. After you hit the 4 buttons on the monkey round, you gotta go to Pack-a-Punch and stand under this platform where the rocket would be for 2 minutes without getting off of it. It's not a terrible step, and it's not really hard either because you can just leave one crawler at the end of the round and get it done that way. But with that said, it still is the longest and, in my opinion, most uneventful step in this entire quest. I mean, maybe you could go with the step right before this, hitting the buttons on the monkey round since, you know, you have to wait for a monkey round, but I personally think this is worse. Call of the Dead. Now, this is the only Easter egg to have 2 different quests depending on if you're doing the solo or co-op. But with that being said, the solo Easter egg is pretty much the exact same as a co-op Easter egg, but with like 3 steps in the middle taken out. So because of that, I'm not going to talk about the solo one, and I'm just going to focus on the co-op quest. So as far as the co-op Easter egg goes, there is one step that sticks out to me, and I think everybody can say it with me: the dial step. For a step in this Easter egg, you have to go to the lighthouse and turn all 4 dials in here until they're a certain number. The purple one having to be 6, the blue one being 4, the orange one at 7, and the yellow dial at 2. Sounds easy, right? Well, if you've done this step, especially without a guide, then you know that this step is nowhere as easy as it sounds, because when you turn a dial on one floor, it'll actually turn another dial on another floor. So to do this step, you have to turn the purple dial until it reaches 6, and then you have to turn the orange dial until the blue one is at 4. Then after this, you have to turn the yellow dial until the orange one is at 7, and then you turn the yellow dial some more until it's at 2, and then you go back to the purple dial and turn that dial the same amount of times you turn the yellow one, and to finish the step off, you have to go back to blue and turn it back to 4. For as dumb as this step is, you'd think that this would be like a Black Ops 3 step, but no, it's a Black Ops 1 step, it's a Jimmy Zielinski step, and it's a step in the second Easter egg ever, which is crazy to think about. So the next time a boomer hits you with the "Zombies Easter eggs are so stupid now," show them this step: Shangri-La, the Napalm Zombie step. For this step, you have to keep playing as normal until a napalm zombie spawns in, and then once he spawns in, while making sure he's not close enough to you to blow up, you and your team have to go to spawn and go in eclipse mode, and slowly escort him throughout basically the entire bottom section of the map, and wait for him to slowly walk past 4 gas pipes to light them. And this step's not that annoying on paper, but what makes this step annoying is, first off, you have to wait for him to spawn in. It's not like later Easter eggs where the game will spawn in that specific enemy when it's time for him in the Easter egg. But also, if you get too close to this napalm zombie, or get too far away from him, then he will explode and you'll have to keep playing as normal and keep flipping rounds until another one spawns in, and then go back in eclipse mode and get him to walk past all 4 pipes again. I actually don't mind Shangri-La's Easter egg for the most part, besides the 4-player requirement, but this has always been a step that I dislike. And finishing off Black Ops 1, Moon. Now the step I'm going with technically isn't a step, so there probably will be some pushback on this in the comments, but I don't even care in the slightest, because the single worst part about doing Moon's Easter egg every single time is playing the mystery box simulator. Throughout the course of this Easter egg, you have to get Gersh devices from the box to get the plates from Area 51, and then for the very next step, you need to get QEDs from the mystery box to teleport said plates across the room, and fast forward to the very end of the Easter egg, you have to get the Gersh devices again to launch the rockets. On co-op, this is one thing, because one player can just get each tactical and you're fine. But in Black Ops 3 Moon, where you can do this Easter egg on solo, this means that you have to get Gersh devices for step 3, and then swap out the Gershes for QEDs for step 4, and then hold on to them until after the MPD step, and after this you have to hit the box again for Gershes to finish the Easter egg. And in Black Ops 3, with there being 34 weapons in the mystery box, it's a chore as is just to get to Gershes sometimes, let alone the QEDs after, let alone the Gersh devices again. Transit. Now for the Victus Easter eggs, I'm going to pick the worst step in both the Richthofen quest and the Maxis quest. This is because, for the most part, both these versions of the Victus eggs have different steps in them. So starting off Transit, we're going to talk about the worst step in the Maxis side of the quest, and this is turning on and right back off the power. Maxis side of this Easter egg is like 4 steps long. It is so short, it is insane. And the first step in this quest is you have to go to the power station and craft the power to turn it on, and then turn it right back off 10 seconds later. This is so you can actually activate the Maxis Easter egg and not do the Richthofen one, but I mean, you couldn't have found a better way for us to do this without having to turn off the power and navigate this whole map with no perks. And yes, I'm well aware that the turbine has a glitch on it to turn the perks on to get the effects of it without turning on the power, but that doesn't excuse the fact that they initially intended for you to navigate this entire map over and over again without stamina. And for the Richthofen quest, I think everybody who's done this quest can all agree the worst part about Richthofen's quest is the jet gun step. For Richthofen's quest, you have to build the jet gun, which, if you don't remember, means you have to grab a part from the tunnel near spawn, a part in Noct in the cornfield, a part at the power station, and a part at the cabin, and place them all one at a time on this bench in town to build it. And since Transit has the infamous Victus part system, this means that once you grab a part, you have to go place it in town before you can go grab another one. So this is already a ton of legwork as is. And you want to know what you need this jet gun for? Why you had to run across this entire map for 10, 15, 20 minutes to build it? You want to know why you needed it? For that. Literally, that's it. You spend upwards of 15 minutes building the jet gun just to purposely blow it up in 5 seconds for this step. It is so dumb and so pointless that this is honestly one of my least favorite Easter egg steps of all time. Nuketown Zombies. Wait, there's no Easter egg on here. Dire Eyes. For the Maxis side, I'm gonna go with the ballistic knife step. After you get the sniper kills in the Buddha room, you have to get the ballistic knife out of the mystery box, or the fridge I guess, pack-a-punch it, and then go back to the Buddha room just to shoot it in this room. You don't have to kill a zombie or anything like that, you just fire it at the ground a few times and you're done. This is such a useless and dumb step that I legitimately have no clue why it's even here. And for Richthofen's side, I'm gonna go with the trample steam step. For this step, you have to place the trample steam down on these Nuketown Zombie symbols, and your team has to use the trample steam a total of 16 times to beat this step. You don't even have to use it on zombies. If you just hold a crawler at the end of the round and fling yourself into a wall 16 times, then you will beat this step and you'll be on the Mahjong step. Like Maxis' quest. This makes no sense. Mob of the Dead. Now this is a great quest, but man is it short. This Easter egg is literally flying the pack-a-punch 3 times, grabbing the spoon in Afterlife, shocking the numbers on a number panel, listening to dialogue, and then you fight your friend on the Golden Gate Bridge. This Easter egg is very short, but very sweet. But with that being said, there is still one step in this Easter egg that I think could have been nixed entirely entirely, and that is the second and third plane ride to the Golden Gate Bridge. I say this because they're pretty uneventful compared to the first one. After you do this map's amazing pack-a-punch setup and get all the plane parts and go to the roof and fly to the bridge, you have to go back to the main part of the map and do the exact same thing 2 more times. Only this time you're not unlocking the parts, you're just running all around the map to grab the gas cans. And in co-op you can only hold 1 gas can at a time, which means you'll have to do a lot of running back and forth just to do 2 more plane rides. Now this might be a cheat answer for some of you, but this is an actual step for the Easter egg. You want to fight me on that? Instead of going in the comments and losing your mind, go try to do this Easter egg right now and only fly to Pack-a-Punch once. Go ahead. Oh, you can't? Yeah, didn't think so. This is a step. Buried. This is the final Victus map with 2 different Easter eggs, and I actually think both of them, for the most part, are a lot of fun to do. But as far as the Richthofen quest is concerned, the worst step in this Easter egg was really easy to pick out. And no, it's not the sharpshooter step. If you don't like the sharpshooter step, get good. I think that the single worst Easter egg step in Richthofen's Easter egg is the maze switches. After round infinity, you and your team have to go to the maze and flip 4 different colored switches at random to see which ones spark. After you turn all 4, some of them will be sparking and some of them won't be. The ones that are sparking will turn in the right order and the ones that weren't won't spark. From here, you take this knowledge, remember which switches were sparking, and you leave the witch's house, only to go right back through the witch's house and go back to the maze and try a different order for them. You have to do this over and over again until you hit all 4 switches in the right order so that all 4 of them spark, finally beating the step. And a step of pure trial and error is bad enough as is, but what makes this even more annoying is that every single time you return to the maze to try a new combination, the locations of the 4 switches will change. Each of these 4 switches can spawn in up to 6 different locations each, meaning that every time you go back here, you'll have to check up to 24 different switch locations every single time you try it. And you go through all this work looking for all 4 switches just to get the order wrong, so you have to do a loop around the witch's house and go back to the maze and hunt them down again. I am not a fan of this step whatsoever. Thankfully, some go-to people in this community like Wistful Some have made cheat sheets for this step, so it's not as bad as it would have been like 10 years ago, for example. But even with a cheat sheet, this step is not fun to do. Now for Max's side, I can't even lie, this Easter egg is actually pretty good for the most part. It has a lot of the same opening steps as Richthofen's, but instead of the maze step, it has a bell step, which is not bad at all. Especially if you have a team that knows what they're doing, this step can be knocked out in like 2 minutes. So I guess by process of elimination, the worst step of this Easter egg is spawning in the orb by meleeing the signs, following it all the way around the map to the news, only to use a time bomb right after and do this exact same thing again. Like I said, it's not a bad step at all, but as we went over with Mob, when it's not a bad quest and one of the steps is just doing a step you already did again, I think this is a fair thing to pick. Origins. This one is really easy. The Ascent from Darkness step without, keyword, without the Fire Staff skip. I don't care. I love Origins Easter egg, but if we had to do this step the intended way, it would create a major lull in this Easter egg. After you build and upgrade all 4 staffs, you are then on the Ascent from Darkness step. 99% of people do this step by just placing a fire staff at the bottom of the excavation site 4 times and you're done. Seems easy, right? Wrong, because that's not what Treyarch intended. The intentional way to do this step is to place the fire staff at the bottom of the excavation site 1 time, and then in any order you gotta place the ice staff in the robot specifically at the church, the wind staff in the middle robot, and the lightning staff in the spawn robot. That's what they wanted you to do. And since you have to go in all 3 robots and they're on a 2-minute cycle each, this means that even if you had perfect RNG and you had all 3 robots come by first try when you had the corresponding staff in your hands, it would still create like 6 minutes of downtime just waiting for them to come through. But let's be real, you're not getting perfect RNG on this step most likely. So what'll most likely happen is you'll have the wind staff for the middle robot in your hand, but the church robot will come through, or the spawn robot. Or when you grab the lightning staff, the wind robot will come through. So you'll end up having to spend a lot of time just waiting for the correct robots to come through. Like I said, thankfully you can skip the step on BO2 Origins fairly easily, and you can also do a skip on BO3 Origins as well, although that one is a lot more complicated. But just imagine a world in which you couldn't. Man, would that be bad. That's it for Treyarch Zombies for now. Now let's jump into the first non-Treyarch game, which is Exo Zombies, and let's move on to the very first map in it, which is Outbreak. The worst step in this Easter egg is hands down the incinerator step. Those of you who watch my worst thing about every map video know that I absolutely hate this step, so it shouldn't be a surprise to see it here. Most of Outbreak's Easter egg is really short, and although the steps are stupid, I think it's a fun kind of stupid, like typical COD Zombies Easter eggs fun stupid. But the incinerator step is just bad stupid. To do this step, you first have to buy a garbage chute fast travel, then back away from it, only to buy it immediately again to be teleported in a secret incinerator. In this room, you have about 20 seconds to literally blind fire the ground to magically shoot up a key card and pick it up. This key card can spawn literally anywhere in this room, so unless you get God tier RNG, you'll most likely get kicked out of here and you'll have to return to this room to try again. And to return to this room, you'll either have to dump another 4,000 points per attempt, or you flip the round to reset the fast travel prices. So in a way, this step is a round burner since you'll most likely not have the points to try this multiple times in a round. This step's only saving grace is that you can use the thermal sight on your gun to make seeing it pop out of the ground much easier. But even with that, there's still no way to tell where it is until you magically shoot the right spot and it pops out of the ground. But even with as bad as this step is, the Easter egg steps somehow get even worse in the next couple maps. Because next up we have Infection. Now before I even get into what I think is the worst step, let me give a dishonorable mention real quick to the Gator step. If you do this step without either 1, a shotgun, or 2, the last like 4 zombies in a round, then this step is next to impossible because there is no way to tell when the Gator will pop up, so you'll have almost no time to react to shoot the Gator to get him to drop the hand that you need, and even if you do get him to drop it, the hand only lasts here for like 10 seconds before it disappears. And with as fast and chaotic as Exo Zombies is, you simply aren't getting this step done mid-round. You're just not. But that's not the worst step in this Easter egg because that has to be the meat step. Like the egg step on Revelations, which, by the way, we won't be talking about in this Easter egg because Rev's Easter egg is that stupid. On this step, you have to run around the map and collect 4 pieces of meat one at a time and return them to the skillet in Burger Town. Now, like I said, you have to do this one at a time, so this should go without saying, but this map has the Victus part system, so that makes this step annoying as is. But it gets even worse when you remember that there isn't just like 2, 3, maybe 4 spawn locations for each piece of meat. No, there are 37 different spawn locations for the 4 pieces of meat. So this means that you'll have to run around the entire Exo Zombies map with Exo Zombies on you the entire time and walk around the map and look at the ground for random pieces of meat. And the cherry on top of this god-awful step is it plays directly into something that makes Infection as a whole borderline unplayable, which are the toxic zones. If you're not aware, randomly at the start of the round, toxic gas can fill up in a certain area and block you from entering it for the entire round. So let's say, for example, that you're looking for the meat in value voltage and the round ends. You don't kill the zombie just bleeds out because he's on a 5-minute timer until he bleeds out, and once he bleeds out, on the very next round, toxic gas will spawn in value voltage, and you'll have to run out of here and flip the round before you can go back to value voltage and continue looking for this piece of meat. It's absolutely terrible. Oh, and speaking of, Carrier, the island step. I've said my piece on this step many times, and I'm sure that people that watch my content regularly are probably tired of me absolutely dogging on this step, so let's do it again. You couldn't design an Easter egg step any worse if you tried. To complete this single step of this Easter egg, you first have to kill 20 teleporter zombies that only spawn in once, maybe twice a round, grab the teleporter piece they drop, and place it in this teleporter to charge it up. Now there's already multiple problems with this step as is. Number 1, it's a round burner. The only way to complete this step is by going through round after round after round, so you can occasionally get a teleporter zombie to drop a teleporter piece so you can place it in the teleporter. And what makes this even worse is, as we just went over with the meat step, Exo Zombies has a Victus part system, so you can only hold 1 of these at a time. So if you kill 2 teleporter zombies, for example, and you're nowhere near the teleporter, then you won't have enough time to go place the first one and run back to the second one and pick it up, because by that time, the second one will have despawned. So you either have to do this step by killing teleporter zombies very slowly to maximize them, or you have to camp by the teleporter in this tight hall so you'll have enough time to place both. And after you finally turn on the teleporter, like 10 rounds after you start this step, you then need to give random weapons to the zombie hand in hopes that it gives you 3 parts for a fishing rod, a hook, a string, and a reel. And once you have these 3 parts, you go to spawn and play a pure game of luck where you spend 100 points to fish something random out of the ocean. It could be a zombie body, it could be a little bit of ammo, it could be some points, it could be a buoy, it could literally be nothing. There is a wide selection of useless stuff that you can get in here, and the one and only thing that you're looking for is a shovel. And remember, since we have the Victus part system, you have to wait to do this step until the teleporter is ready, because if you grab the shovel before you finish turning on the teleporter, then the very next time you grab a teleporter piece, you will trade out the shovel for it, and you have to go back to the fishing rod and randomly fish it up again for this next step. But once you finally have the shovel and you finally have the teleporter on, you buy the teleporter to teleport to an island, and like the incinerator step, you have to blindly look at the ground and hold interact to hopefully dig up a tablet. But it's not even guaranteed that you can find this though. So if you don't find it in like 15-20 seconds, then you'll be teleported back to the map and you have to spend more points to teleport back to the island again. This step is legitimately in contention for the single worst Easter egg step of all time, and I will hear no fighting back on this. And finally, finishing off Exo Zombies, we have Descent. Now, if you know me, then you know that I really enjoyed Descent's Easter egg. Just about every single step in this Easter egg, I find to be pretty fun. I mean, yeah, sure, they don't make sense, but who cares? This is a video game first and foremost, so being fun is what's most important. I would much rather do an Easter egg with stupid steps that are fun than logical steps that are annoying. And this entire quest from beginning to end is stupid fun in the best possible way. That is, of course, after you get off the EMZ step. To do this, you have to fill up this meter in the corner of this room all the way to 100%, and the way you fill it up is you gotta have EMZ zombies corner you in here and explode on you to charge it. If you know Exo Zombies, then you know how terrible that sounds already. And it's not only because of how stupid it sounds on paper, needing zombies to corner you multiple times, but it gets even worse when you remember that every single time the EMZ zombies hit you, they will disable your exosuit, which means every single time you get an EMZ to explode on this step, your exosuit will be completely shut off for 5 seconds while you're stuck in this corner and the entire horde is still attacking you. Because of this, it is very easy to go down on this step, but thankfully there are multiple ways to make this step not as annoying. Like for example, if you just so happen to get good luck and you get a dog round while you're on this step, then you can have the EMZ dogs explode on this step, and it's much less likely that you'll get trapped on a dog round than you will on a normal zombie round. So that makes this not as bad, but also, if you're just so lucky enough to have a Goliath suit spawn in, then you can get in the Goliath suit at the very start of a round and just stand right in front of this machine and have all the EMZ zombies attack you, and by the time the Goliath suit explodes, you can have this meter about half charged. But even with these two things, this step is never fun to do, and it's the only part of Descent's Easter egg that I don't enjoy doing. That's it for Exo Zombies. Now let's jump back to Treyarch, starting with my favorite zombies map of all time, Shadows of Evil. Now this is my favorite map of all time, and although I think the quest itself is pretty short, and once you get good at it, you can fly through it in like 40 minutes, I think it's a pretty fun Easter egg. There's no real step that stands out to me as being bad. So, I'm gonna have to go back on what I said in the intro for this map, and I'm gonna have to pick the boss fight. Like I said, the rest of this Easter egg is pretty fun, from unlocking Pack-a-Punch, getting and upgrading your sword, and all 4 flag defenses are pretty fun as well. And after you do that step, it is time for the boss fight. You go to the Pack-a-Punch room, interact with one of the 4 keepers in here, then shoot the Shadow Man around 7 or 8 times until he's above the table, then place a summoning key on it, and that's it. That's this map's entire boss fight. And it's really crazy thinking about it now, because this was Treyarch's first ever boss fight, and the map right after this, Der Eisendrache, was their second ever boss fight, and that boss fight is so much better. It's honestly one of the best boss fights of all time, and somehow, in the map right before this, they completely failed to make a good boss fight. I made it no secret that I think this is one of the worst boss fights in Zombies history. By the way, if you want my full ranking, check out the video here. And I also think this is the worst part of this entire map. The Giant. Oh boy. I mean, what do I even say here? It's just a flytrap Easter egg on Dries, but slightly different. And before you say, technically, Treyarch counts this as an Easter egg because, like every other map in Black Ops 3, you get XP when you complete it, and also, the flytrap Easter egg is tied to the gate worm on the Giant in the main menu. So yes, this is an Easter egg. But getting back to it, would anybody be mad at me if I said the worst thing about this Easter egg is its reward? Like, I seriously don't know what else to say. After you do the flytrap, you get rewarded with the Annihilator from BO3's multiplayer, which looks pretty cool, don't get me wrong. But not only is it really bad with it struggling to kill zombies as early as the 30s, but it's also the only specialist in this game that was straight up copy and pasted from multiplayer. At least for something like the Ragnaroks, which are ripped from the gravity spikes from multiplayer, at least they're a different color, have different attacks, different sound effects, and are, you know,
called something different?
all of these things help distinguish the Ragnaroks from the gravity spikes from multiplayer, so it doesn't feel like it was just copy and pasted from multiplayer. But with the Annihilator, it looks the exact same, acts the exact same, and is even called the exact same thing as the one from multiplayer as well. Der Eisendrache. Now this one's also pretty hard because I think that Der Eisendrache has one of the best Easter eggs ever. I don't think there is a single bad step in this Easter egg, but if I had to pick one, then I'd have to go with the second time travel. To go back in time, you gotta find 4 Whistler on the map and shoot them with your bow, go, and then use a teleporter to go back in time. The first time you do this, you gotta get the code from the safe, grab a couple parts in here, and additionally, you get some insight on Dr. Groff. This all makes sense, but the second time you go back in time, the only thing that you need is to place a keycard from the unlocked safe in this machine and grab this keeper stone. This is so you can charge a keeper near double tap. There is literally not a single other reason for you to go back in time for the second time, so honestly, I really feel like they could have had us unlock this stone in a completely different way and completely nix the second fast travel, and nobody would have complained. Zetsubo no Shima. Now this is an Easter egg where I feel like everybody's gonna have a different answer. You could go with the zipline step or the boss fight, for example. But like I said in the intro, I'm trying as hard as I possibly can to avoid picking the boss fights unless I think it's absolutely necessary. So I'm not going with the boss fight because this Easter egg has quite a few bad steps. And as far as the single worst step in this egg, I don't know if I can pick just one because I have two steps that I dislike that much. The first of which is spawning into lightning. To get lightning to strike the skull ritual, every single player in the game needs to complete all of their challenges. Now that doesn't sound too bad on paper, but what makes me dislike this step are two things. Number one, doing this on co-op. Anytime I do this Easter egg on co-op, I'm always stuck waiting to progress in this Easter egg until that one player struggles to complete his challenges. And the second reason why I don't like this step is the fruit plant challenge. I don't care what any of you say. There is no surefire way to grow one every single time. There's just not. I tested this ad nauseum when I was making my Easter egg guide, and there's no guaranteed way to grow one. There's a way to have like a 60% chance to spawn one, but guess what? You know what 60% is? Not guaranteed. So when you have the possibility to burn 3 rounds just to not get a fruit plant, that means that you have to go another 3 rounds of using all 3 water types just to hopefully get the fruit plant the next time around. And this perfectly leads me to the other step I dislike in this quest, which is getting the AA bullet. Just like the fruit plant challenge, there is no guaranteed way to spawn one in. You just have to keep growing upgraded blue plants until you hopefully get it from the plant. And on screen right now are all the possible rewards you could get from an upgraded blue plant. And because of this, it's not that uncommon that you will burn 3 rounds growing this plant just to not get the AA bullet. Even if you maximize things and you grow 3 plants at a time, you could still very easily not have the AA bullet spawn in any of them, and you have to go another 3 rounds playing Plant Simulator. Garad Crovey. For as much as I absolutely hate the Mangler step, and trust me, I do, there's only one correct answer for this. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. The valve step. To do this step, you have to visit 6 valves around the map and look for which of the 6 has a green light and also which of the 6 has a pink cylinder inside. Then you take that information, type it into cronorium.com or my Easter egg guide, and revisit all 6 valves and turn them to the correct numbers to unlock the pink cylinder. Since there are 6 valves and a green light and cylinder can spawn in any of the 6 locations, that means that there are up to 30 different combinations to beating this step. Because of this, it is literally impossible to do this step without either a guide or straight up having Powerball luck. And even for someone like me that has every Black Ops 4 Easter egg memorized, most of the Origin staff codes memorized, and even all the bird locations on Blood of the Dead memorized, it is still impossible for me to remember all 6 valves orientations for 30 different combinations. And before we finish off BO3, quick story time real quick. Back in 2016, my friend and I were real zombies nerds. We were able to beat the Drak and Zetsubo the day they came out on Xbox flawlessly. We did those Easter eggs and played BO3 in general an unhealthy amount of time shortly after launch, and since they weren't the craziest thing ever, we thought it'd be fun to challenge ourselves in the next map, Garad Crovey, and see if we could beat this Easter egg when it came out without a guide, and yeah, we didn't get very far. And speaking of stupid steps, revelations. Oh man, do I have a wide selection to choose from. I could go with the tombstone step, the keeper step, the Yarny step. I just named 3 steps in a row. Oh my god, this egg is dumb. And I could even go with the egg step as well. But I personally don't think I have any other choice but to go with the rock steps. Yes, that's right, rock steps plural. In the 4th step of this Easter egg, you have to shoot 6 rocks around the map to reveal hidden bones and then suck them up with the Apothecant Servant. But not just any Apothecant Servant, it has to be the upgraded Apothecant Servant. And think about it for a sec. How exactly do you upgrade the Apothecant Servant? Oh, that's right, by shooting more rocks! Before you can even start this step, you have to shoot 5, I don't know if you call them rocks or what, out of the sky with the Apothecant Servant to upgrade it. So to do the rock step, you have to shoot 5 rocks with the Apothecant Servant, pack a punch the Apothecant Servant, then go back around the map and shoot 6 more rocks, and suck the bones up with the upgraded Apothecant. I understand why most people hate this Easter egg, I really do, trust me. Even if I don't hate it myself when I'm doing it. But shooting random rocks around a map is never fun to do. But hey, at least we never had to shoot rocks out of the sky again in future maps. Right, Kevin? Kevin Drew.
Now, obviously, we want to make things intuitive. We don't want, like, I'm like, nope, we're not shooting rocks.
Now let's jump back to non-Treyarch zombies, starting with Zombies in Spaceland. Quick dishonorable mention to the boss fight, because even though I think this boss fight is great, I only say that because I am a solo player. But if you're not aware, in this boss fight, 1 alien will spawn per player in the game, which means if you do this boss fight in a 4-player game, then you will have 4 aliens spawn that will all target the same player and bully them until they go down, and they will just divide and conquer your whole team and you will not win. So dishonorable mention to that, like I said. But also, like I said in the intro, I'm not going with boss fights unless I feel it's absolutely necessary, and for this map, it's not. Even though this Easter egg is very short and the vast majority of the quests just being Steadicom defenses, I think that there is something in here that I can say is the worst, and this is very specific and you probably won't understand unless you've experienced this yourself, and that is if you just so happen to be unfortunate enough to get the 3rd Steadicom defense at the fountains. If you get it underground or in front of Polar Peak or even in the bumper cars, then the 3rd Steadicom defense really ain't much harder than the first 2, especially considering that you will most likely have a wonder weapon by this point. But if you're unfortunate enough to get this 3rd Steadicom defense at the fountains, then you'll have to defend the Steadicom from all directions for 2 minutes, and on solo that is really hard, especially since, and I might be wrong about this, correct me IW nerds if I'm wrong, but I believe just as many zombies spawn on solo on this step as they do in co-op. So like another map that we'll be talking about later, this step isn't properly balanced for solo, and because of this, and like I just said, they come from all directions to attack it and not just 1 or 2 choke points like just about every other Steadicom location, it can be really hard to defend this on solo without an elite setup or director's cut. And if you fail this, then not only will a brute spawn this map's boss enemy, but also you'll have to track down the Hoff at one of the 3 locations on the next round and grab the Steadicom again, and he won't be at the same location because when you fail this, he will move to a different location for some reason. So if I'm being completely honest, if I'm doing this Easter egg without director's cut and I give fountains last, chances are I'm just going to reset the game and restart from the very beginning because I do not feel like dealing with this at all. Raven and Redwoods. This is another really short Easter egg, and this might catch me some flack in the comments just like Mob, but I think the worst part about doing Rave's Easter egg is riding the Pack-a-Punch. Rave's quest is just doing 3 different soul box rituals, the first being specifically for arm kills, the second for leg kills, and the third for headshots. After that, it is literally time for the boss fight. But in between every single soul box, you have to go to Pack-a-Punch and talk to Kevin Smith. And every single time you do go to Pack-a-Punch, you gotta sit through this really boring, really slow boat ride that takes over a minute every single time you go. And it's not a cool ride like Garad Crovies or Ancient Evil's ride, nor is it skippable either. The boat ride is just a minute of what you're seeing on the screen right now. And when you have to do this 4 different times to get to the boss fight, this really kills any momentum this Easter egg would ever have at every possible chance it can. Thankfully, sometimes you can skip this boat ride if you go to Pack-a-Punch and place the transponder down, and then when you gotta go there again, you can just activate the transponder to teleport straight there. But with that being said, you still have to take the boat ride at least every other trip to Pack-a-Punch to place the transponder down. And when riding the boat multiple times as almost half of this Easter egg, not only in steps but in length, I don't really know what else you could pick as the worst thing in Rave. Shaolin Shuffle. Now, the next couple maps we're about to talk about have a bunch of steps I could pick. Case in point, Shaolin Shuffle. I could go with the code step, the disco step, the brain step in the boss fight, and there's probably more on top of that I'm forgetting. But the step I dread the most anytime I play Shaolin Shuffle is the eye scan step. You have to run around the map and check up to 13 different locations with your eye scanner, aka your tactical, for an orange symbol 6 times to beat this step. And that honestly doesn't sound too bad on paper, but here's the kicker. These symbols only spawn 1 at a time. So this step can very easily have you running around the entire map multiple times just to find all 6 eye symbols. This is not only one of the worst steps in Shaolin Shuffle, but it's also one of the worst steps, if not the worst step, in Infinite Warfare. Attack of the Radioactive Thing. Even though I don't particularly hate this step, I know for a fact I would have an army of pitchforks outside my door the second I upload this if I did not pick the chemistry step. To get in the boss fight, you have to listen to a radio and figure out which of the 4 chemicals you have to craft to take out the Krog. And when I say craft the chemical, I mean that in the most literal sense that I can. You'll have to run around this map and grab multiple items and place them in the garage, do some addition and subtraction, and type the difference in the machine to craft the chemical. All of these chemicals have anywhere from 3 to 4 different steps in them, and you can only hold one part at a time. So this step is a ton of legwork to do, even if you take the fast travels. Now, like I said, I'm a weirdo, so I don't personally hate this step, and some of you might be wondering how I can not hate this step, but hate the eye step from Shaolin Shuffle. And that's because once you know the chemical you need, all the parts spawn in immediately in the same location every single single game, so you're not running around the map multiple times checking these same locations over and over again in hopes that a certain chemical spawned there that time. If you don't like this step, obviously I can totally understand why, hence why I'm saying it's the worst step in this egg, but I've always had a soft spot in my heart for attack, and that'll probably never change. Beast from Beyond. Now, even though I think this is one of the worst maps of all time, despite what some people think, I don't think the majority of the steps in this Easter egg are that annoying. Some people think that this bar puzzle thing right here is random and you just have to keep turning things until you beat it, but it's not random. All you have to do is interact with every single vertical bar and maybe every single horizontal bar after that, and it'll be solved every single time. And for the nail escort, people really hate this, but it's not that bad either. Once you're on this step, if you use the entangler a little bit on this nail monitor near the bar puzzle, this will make it so when you're doing the nail step, you can manually open the doors whenever you want to. So because of these things, I don't think neither of these can qualify as the single worst step in this egg. In my opinion, I think the worst step in this Easter egg is the second Ghost and Skull step. After you grab the first skull, everybody in your game has to stand on this tiny red X in his room to start a 1 minute long defense in which you can't let any of the zombies knock you out of the green circles. If they do, then you'll have to flip to the next round and try again. So if you're doing this on co-op with someone who sucks, chances are they'll get knocked out of the circle and you'll be stuck trying this for multiple rounds. And even then, if you're used to doing this, sometimes a normal zombie can spawn which they shouldn't be able to, and they can sneak up behind you and knock you out of the green circle, also failing the step. But let's just say you're good enough to where you can do this. Well, you better be paying attention as soon as you finish it, because you only have about 10, maybe 15 seconds max to locate where the skull went in this room and run and jump into it, or else it'll despawn and you'll have to redo this entire step over again on the next round. So if the skull spawns by the portal, for example, you better run to it ASAP and you better hit it first try, or else you'll be doing this step again. And keep in mind, this step is to unlock the Entangler, one of the worst weapons in Infinite Warfare that serves pretty much no purpose outside of the Easter egg steps. At least with other bad weapons like the Forge Freeze, at least it can get you a ton of points on a low round. The Entangler can't, it sucks, and you have to keep doing this annoying step over and over and over again to unlock it. That's it for Infinite Warfare. Now let's jump on to World War II Zombies, starting with the Final Reich. This is a pretty good Easter egg for the most part, but by far my least favorite part about it has got to be the Zeppelin step. After you activate the right hand of God, you have to shoot a battery off the Zeppelin in the sky. After you do, you gotta locate where it landed in the map and get around 15 kills near it to release it from the pod. And after you release it, you have to pick it up and walk it, literally walk it. You can't run, you have to walk it from above the map all the way down to salt mines back to the hand of God. And since you're forced to walk while you're holding this means you either have to do this with a few zombies left, or you gotta keep dropping it every 3 or so seconds for a sprint boost to avoid the zombies from attacking you. And this is bad enough doing this once, but you have to do this exact same thing 3 times in this Easter egg. The Darkest Shore. Now, what I'm about to say should be no surprise to anybody who's watched a single video of mine. I don't like this map. And I also don't like this Easter egg, this boss fight, nothing. And even though I could go with something like the Woosling Escort, because sometimes he just completely ignores you and goes for other perks even if you try to shoot him to get him back to focus on you. Sometimes he doesn't, he glitches out, and he ruins his step. I could also go with trying to get the spines in general from the boss zombies. But if I had to pick just one step to be the single worst, then I'd probably go with the boat step. After you do the valve lockdown and unlock this secret room, you're going to interact with this button to spawn a bomber zombie in here and escort him across the map. The normal zombies will attack this bomber zombie, and he can die fairly easily if you're not protecting him. Another thing that makes this escort annoying is that you have to shoot the planes out of the sky before you escort him. If you don't, then they will fly over the map and literally one-shot kill this bomber zombie every single time. But once he gets in the bunker, you then have to charge his battery like a soul box to get shots in his cannon right here. Then to spawn in the boats for the, boat step, you have to grab a few radio parts around the map and place them on this table, and this is where the step gets really annoying. 2 boats will spawn way out in the water, and you have to line up your cannon exactly right, both the direction of it and the height of it, so when you fire this cannon, you will hit the boat and sink it. Keep in mind, the boat's locations are random every single game, and they have like 10 different locations they can go to. So to do this step, you either need to have a cheat sheet up so you know exactly where to shoot every single time, or you have to line up this cannon exactly right, like I said, both in height and direction to sink them. And to make this even more annoying, you'll only have a couple shots in a cannon before it runs out of ammo and you have to charge it with more zombies, but this time while the boats are shooting at you non-stop. Now, even though I said this is the worst step in this Easter egg, to be completely honest, this could very easily change the next time I do this Easter egg, because like I said in the intro for this map, I don't like basically any steps in this Easter egg. But at this moment in time, I think that the boat step is the single worst in this quest. The Shadowed Throne. This is another one where a lot of people will agree with me, but with that said, not everybody will, because this Easter egg has one really annoying step and one step that is pretty tedious, and you can honestly go with either step, but I'm personally gonna go with the safe step. This step involves you getting a dagger from the safe, but to unlock the safe, you'll have to get a code, and to get the code, you have to go to the theater and look where there's a green dot, and go to that part of the map and get kills near a specific doll in that area. Doing so will charge a doll, and you have to count how many kills you get before it stops acting like a soul box. And the thing with this step is, you can't just kill as many as you want until it's done, no. You have to train a horde of zombies around here and get kills one at a time near this doll, because you have to count the exact number of kills it takes before it stops accepting souls, and that's your first number for the safe. After this, you return to the map and look where the green dot is again, and you do the same thing for the doll here, and rinse and repeat. You'll have to do this 4 times to get your code, and if you just so happen to not count one of the dolls right and you got one number off in one of the codes, then the code for this next step won't work, so you have to go fill back up all 4 dolls over again and recount all 4 numbers very slowly to double check your code. But now that you do have your code, you have to sit on this safe and put the code in. And this safe doesn't work like other safes like, say, Mauer to Totems or Liberty Falls. It doesn't work like that where the game actually has a brain and takes the zombies off of you. No, the zombies will still go after you the entire time you're putting this code in the safe. And since this map will always turn the last zombie in a super sprinter, that means to even have a chance to putting in this code, you'll either have to hold one crawler at the end of the round so he can't turn into a super sprinting sizzler, or you'll have to do this step in the 20 seconds of downtime you have in between rounds. And the cherry on top of this safe, just like the dolls, if you put one of the numbers in your code in slightly wrong, then it won't open and you'll have to re-enter your code over again, which means you'll have to either take the crawler very far away again or flip around again. Now, like I said for the intro for this map, there was one of 2 steps I could very easily see people saying is the worst, and the other step being the puzzle step right before the boss fight. If you say this step, I can't argue with it because it completely halts the game's momentum and you'll most likely have to open a cheat sheet. But in my personal opinion, I've always found the safe step to be way more annoying. Now it's time for what most people think is the worst part of Zombies history outside of Vanguard, and that is the tortured path, starting with the first map. I don't think most people would fight me on this, but I think the worst part of this Easter egg is escorting the zombie on round 7. After you grab the 6 zombie parts and get it struck by lightning on the windmill, on the round after, it'll come to life and very slowly walk across the entire map. And while this zombie is walking across the map, you have to protect him from the other zombies so he doesn't die. And I forgot just how slow he truly was until I redid this Easter egg for this video. He is so slow that crawlers and wooslings can actually catch up to him. And even if you charge up the zombie on the round before to quote-unquote increase his health, he still has such low health that the Welling from Black Ops 4 could legitimately one-shot kill him. So all it takes is a few hits from the other zombies, or one shot from a bomber zombie or a woosling, and he will die. And if he dies, then you have failed this Easter egg and you have to restart from the very beginning. There is no way to respawn him or bring him back to life. You have to end the game and restart from the very beginning to redo this. Awful. Truly awful. And speaking of, the Tortured Path Part 2. This might be a cop-out for some, but I don't care. The worst step in the second Tortured Path Easter egg is the very first step in which you have to melee this battery. Doing so will make all the zombies faster, and also, it'll make it so they can teleport for the rest of this Easter egg. Combine this with a really tight, really small CQC layout of this map, and this gets really annoying really fast. If you've never played this map, let me put this in perspective for you. Imagine an even tighter Voyage of Despair with teleporting zombies. Doesn't sound fun, does it? Yeah, no, because it's not. The Tortured Path Part 3. This might be the single shortest Easter egg of all time, even including Max Decided Transit's Easter egg, because even though that Easter egg is like 4 steps long, you'll still have to run across this entire map or take the bus, whatever you do, and that alone I think takes longer than this Easter egg. Hey everybody, Jules from the future here. So I just went back to check to make sure I wasn't that big of an idiot, and yes, this is the single shortest speedrun of all time. The world record for this map is 4 minutes and 4 seconds. Just think about that. Absolutely crazy. Whereas this map is really small. Kind of like a multiplayer map. And on this small map, the entire Easter egg is just looking for 3 codes around a map and putting them in this wall. So I guess the worst step in this Easter egg is putting in the 3rd code? I guess. To find your code for this step, you have to run around this map and check up to 14 different locations where it could possibly spawn, take a picture of it, and then interact with the symbols in this wall to input your code. This is easily the most forgiving Easter egg in Torture Path, and probably the most forgiving one in World War II as a whole. And even though this step isn't really bad, like we said earlier, even if there's nothing bad, there is still always a worst. And to finish off World War II before we jump back to Treyarch Zombies for good, the Frozen Dawn. Now, people literally don't understand how to use the word literally properly, but I do, and And let me tell you, this Easter egg is literally just upgrading the 4 wonder weapons. Like imagine you're playing Origins, and after you upgrade all 4 staffs, you place them back in a crazy place and get 100 kills. Well, that's pretty much what this Easter egg is, but with that being said, there still are a few annoying steps in it, my least favorite of which being upgrading the shield. To do this, you have to kill 3 of the corpse eaters, this map's boss enemy. You have to kill 3 of them around the blood pools in this map to reveal 3 different patterns. To get 3 corpse eaters to spawn in, you either have to keep flipping rounds until they spawn in, or you have to go around the map and check like 20 different locations for a raven and shoot it, and that will spawn one in. It's nice that they have this workaround instead of just round gating it, but I can't lie, looking for these ravens can be annoying sometimes. But getting back to this step, after they reveal the patterns, you gotta take a picture of these 3 patterns and input those 3 patterns in this big blood pool at the blood altar by killing a zombie in this pool when your patterns show up. Call it a skill issue if you want, and I'm sure the World War II fans will, but I don't like upgrading the shield anytime I do this map. And also, speaking of skill issue, I don't know if I'm just that bad on keyboard or mouse or what, but I've done this Easter egg like 3 times on PC, and every single time I've done the flail trial, I have always died in the flames. I don't know if I just suck that bad with keyboard or mouse or what. I know I'm not that bad in general because I've done this Easter egg a few times on PS4 on controller, and I've never had this issue, but for some reason on keyboard or mouse, I always die to the flames. So if you've done this on keyboard or mouse, is this a skill issue? Let me know in the comments. That's it for World War II. Now let's jump back to Treyarch with my second favorite zombies experience of all time, Black Ops 4, starting with 9. The Danu step. After you unlock Pack-a-Punch, you're tasked with beating the 4 gods' trials to get access to the boss fight, the first of which being Danu. And to get access to Danu's trial, you'll have to first off go to Pack-a-Punch and look for 1 skull in this room that is slightly different from the other like 500 skulls in here. Use your specialist on it to grab it, then place it in this grinder and use the wonder weapon on it to grind it up. Get negative crowd affinity by running in fire for 2 minutes so the crowd will throw poop at you. Yes, I'm serious about this. And also get an axe gladiator that will only spawn starting from round 10 onward to break a piece of wood off a pyre and spawn. Once you have these 3 parts, you then have to place the wood in Odin's temple and wait 2 rounds, then pick it up and place all 3 parts in the bottom of Zeus's temple and wait 2 rounds, then pick this back up and place it at the bottom of Danu's temple and wait 2 rounds, then get firebomb on your gun and use it on a zombie when they're right above the fertilizer to get a white flash. At this point, you will finally have access to Danu's trial. I hate this step so much because it is everything that I dislike about COD Zombies Easter eggs all wrapped up into one step. It's illogical and not a fun illogical like Descent. You're just doing a bunch of random things that make no sense, that are never fun, like running into fire or throwing explosives at the crowd so they throw poop at you. And worst of all, this step is the ultimate round burner. You can start getting ready for this step immediately after you unlock Pack-a-Punch, which means you could start the step as early as round 1 if you use the shopping free. But since you need the round 10 gladiator for this step, and it involves you placing multiple items down for multiple rounds multiple times, this means that even though you can start the step on round 1, you literally cannot get to this part of the Easter egg until at least round 16. It is an absolute chore and I hate it. With that said though, I can't even lie. Once you get into Danu's trial, the rest of this egg is so fun that I kind of forget just how dumb this step is. Until I do it again. Voyage of Despair. Now, I'm someone who thinks Voyage's Easter egg is pretty enjoyable for the most part. I like the lockdowns, I'm one of the weird people that likes the planet step, and the iceberg step and the boss fight are amongst the best steps that Treyarch has ever done. That said though, one step that I'll never like on this map is the clock step. To do this step, you have to check 6 different locations around the map for symbols. If there's a symbol there, you gotta look at a nearby clock and write the time on it down. Now, my first problem with this step is actually getting your times in the first place, and that's for multiple reasons. Number 1, on some of these clocks, you have to get right up close to them to tell the time, and with zombies on you the entire time, this can be pretty annoying. And my second problem with this step stems back to when I played on, according to some people, the superior console. And that is, sometimes when you're on this step, the hands on the clocks will straight up not render in for a decent amount of time. So you just have to sit there and wait until it finally loads in. And after you have your 4 times corresponding to 4 different symbols, you have to go to the bridge near spawn and input all 4 of the minute hands. Then after this, you have to run back across the entire map and put the 2-hour hands with the line triangles up here, then the other 2-hour hands in the boiler room down here. This step requires so much legwork for being this early in the Easter egg, and God help you if you accidentally get a time wrong, because this means you'll have to revisit all 4 clocks over again and double check the times, then go back to all of these levers and fix whichever one is wrong. Thankfully, like I said, after this, Voyage's Easter egg is pretty fun, but this is a step that I'll always dread doing. Dead of the Night. Now, even though the Pack-a-Punch setup and building the silver bullets can be a real chore for some, I don't really mind them because they can be done simultaneously as soon as possible. Additionally, as I said in the intro, I'm not going to include pack-a-punch quests unless I feel it's absolutely necessary, and for this Easter egg, it's not necessary. And with that, I think the worst Easter egg step is the scratch mark step. After you solve the Atlas puzzle, you have to visit 7 different locations around the map and look for a symbol in each location, and if there is one, then you then have to check up to 3 scratch mark locations nearby it. And to make this even worse, like the clocks on Voyage, if you're playing on the superior console, then these symbols will sometimes take forever to load in, which means you could easily look at a location where a symbol is not there, assume that one didn't spawn there, only to go check every other location and not find it, and go back to a location you already checked and a symbol finally spawned in there. But after you get your symbols, you take the scratch marks around them and add them up, then you enter these 3 symbols in the telescope in the greenhouse in the order of the symbol with the lowest sum of tally marks up to the highest to open the telescope. And if you just so happen to not put the right order in, then you'll have to go back around the map and check every single location over again for a new set of symbols and a new set of scratch marks. To be completely honest, once you understand this step, it's not too bad really, it's just tedious is all. But the rest of this Easter egg I don't think is bad at all. So by process of elimination, I think it has to be this step. And finishing off chaos, Ancient Evil. This is, in my opinion, the single best Easter egg of all time, so this is pretty hard for me. But to stay consistent, like I said on Origins, I'm gonna go with the step that most people completely bypass nowadays, and that is the raw defense step, specifically on solo. After you get a Giganees to blast the Ankh in the map, you then give it and the Hand of Hemera to Ra to start a 1-minute defense in which Spartoid will try to block this beam from hitting the wall. If they block it for a total of like 7 seconds during this entire step, then it'll fail you and you'll have to go grab Hemera's hand again to retry this. With so many zombies spawning on this step and a decent amount of Spartoid hiding in the horde, this step is really easy to fail on solo if you don't have Homunculus and or the Hellion. And just in case you do have these to make this step easy, the game will throw a fork in your plans and spawn a Blightfather about halfway through the step. Thankfully, this step isn't bad at all on co-op, and even on solo, you can completely cheese this step by purposely failing this and keeping a Spartoid alive before the step starts. And if you want to know more about this step, go watch. Thanks. But doing this step the intended way on solo is hands down, get it? Hands down the worst part of this fantastic quest. Now let's jump on to Ether, starting with Blood of the Dead. I don't think the worst step is the bird step, and let me tell you why. People seriously overcomplicate this step. They think you blindly have to look at 40 different locations 4 different times, when you straight up don't. That's not how this works. The first bird only has 3 spawn locations, which are all near mob spawn, and then for the second and the third bird, if you go out to the gondola or the docks in between rounds, then you will actually see the bird travel somewhere in the map. And if you go to that area, then you can find him really easily. Not only that, but you can also hear the bird from pretty far away and also through floors. So for example, if I'm outside the cafeteria right here and I aim down sight with my shield and I don't hear anything, then that means that the bird isn't in the cafeteria, by the auger wall by, next to Mob of the Dead spawn, nor in the showers. And then on the 4th bird, he only has 3 general areas he can spawn in, and believe it or not, you don't need a zombie blood for this 4th bird. You can simply use aim plain sight behind a wall, and that will spawn the bird in so you can get to Chronorium. Again, no need for a zombie blood. So that's why I don't think the bird step is the worst. With that said, I think hands down the worst step in this Easter egg is the power step. What a chore. This step gets annoying even before you start it. You get the numbers from the warden's house, then put them in the number panel at the docks, run to the complete opposite side of the map to spawn power to shock the orb to start the step, then run back across the entire map to the power station at the docks to do a memory game. This step is similar to Samantha Says on Moon, but with symbols instead of colors. But unlike Samantha Says on Moon, if at any point you repeat the code wrong, then it'll automatically fail the step for you, and you have to flip around and go back to the warden's house to redo the entire step over again. After you input the 5 code sequence correctly, 3 symbols will have white lights on them for like 5 seconds. You gotta very quickly take note of which 3 generators have white lights on them, take note of these symbols, then run back across the entire map again to the spawn room and translate these symbols with these monitors to get 3 new symbols. Then to finish the step, you return to the spawn power and shock the ghost when he's trying to pull the levers in front of the symbols that you need. And the same thing applies here. If you accidentally shock the wrong symbol, then it'll automatically fail you and you have to flip the next round and redo this entire step over again. And in case you're new around here, when I beat this Easter egg on Realistic, I actually did fail this step at the very end of it, and me failing this seriously broke me. What? I'm a huge blood glazer and that will never change, but I really wish I could completely take this step out, because it is definitely the worst step in this entire quest. The worst thing about Classified's Easter egg is, well, the entire thing, because there's literally only one step, getting to round 150. That's it. That is the only step to beat this Easter egg, and doing this will take you anywhere from 12 upwards of like 18 to 20 hours depending on your strat. And before you say,
Well, actually, Jolts, Project Scatty is the Easter egg.
No, it's not. That's a free Wonder Weapon quest. The way you know this is, number one, you don't get the cutscene here, you get it on round 150. But aside from that, if you do Project Scatty, you won't get a completion for Classified and the map selection screen when you do it. You do get one, however, when you get round 150. Additionally, I can remember the devs talking about this Easter egg when it first came out, how it wasn't your typical Easter egg, and it was something for the high round players. Is Project Scatty for high round players? No. So round 150 is the Easter egg, and it's absolutely terrible. Alpha Omega. Like Voyage, a lot of people absolutely hate this Easter egg, but I can't lie, I actually think it's a lot of fun when you know all the skips for it. For example, the Red Nova step is really easy if used to add a mutant and teleporters. This makes this step basically free, but one step that is never fun to do on it is unlocking the server on Core Value 3. To unlock the server, you have to get a jolting jack to slowly crawl to you and shoot you when you're in front of this server. This jolting jack will take forever to get line of sight of you, and just waiting for him to slowly get line of sight of you is a real pain. And also, if he gets too close to you because he keeps missing it, then you'll have to run back out towards the Galvanockles and wait for him to get back to you over here before running back in front of the server and waiting for him to shoot you again. And one last thing I gotta say about this, God help you if you popped a perkaholic and you got the worst perk in Zombies history in your extra perks, because if Luna activates, then you will never get this step done when she's in the map. Once you open the server, the rest of the core value isn't bad at all, but man, is this step annoying sometimes. And finishing off the Ether storyline, Tagged or Toten. Quick dishonorable mention to hunting down the red orbs around the map twice. You have to find a red orb in spawn, in the facility, and near the beach. You have to hit these red orbs with snowballs to turn them blue and then shoot them to return them to the artifact storage. You'll have to do this with a total of 6 orbs throughout the course of this Easter egg, and that's not fun. But one step I think is worse than this isn't because it's bad, it's just because it's a total snooze fest for how late in the Easter egg it is, and that is the Lighthouse Lockdown. Most of Tagged or Toten's Easter egg is kind of boring, I'm not gonna lie. But with that said, it is really great story-wise, and it really hits you emotionally. But the only step that this doesn't apply to is the Lighthouse Lockdown. After you listen to Primus and Ultimus talk a second time, you take the Seal of Duality to Pablo, and you will start a lockdown in which you have to survive in the lighthouse for a total of 2 minutes. Now this sounds like it'd be kind of challenging, but it's really not, because not only is the difficulty the exact same as normal zombies, but also because you have 3 infinite damage wonder weapons that'll carry you throughout this entire thing with no issues. The Thunder Gun, the Tundra Gun, and the Hellion all make this a breeze. And when you can have both the Hellion and either T-Gun at the same time, this makes it next to impossible to fail. That's it for Ether. Now let's jump onto the Dark Ether storyline, starting with D-Machine. This quest is very simple with no real depth to it, and because of this, I'm gonna have to go back on what I said in the intro yet again, because I'm picking the boss fight. This is so simple, and it's basically just playing normal zombies. This quote-unquote boss fight is just protecting Orlov, who literally cannot die. He'll act like he's taking damage, but he's not. You can have the zombies attack him for as long as you want to, and you will never fail this. You just have to take the zombies off him for like 20 seconds at each of the 3 areas he's at, and you're done with the boss fight. That's it. It's just not good. And speaking of not good, Firebase Z. Here we go again. The Mimic step. This step is terrible and it's really glitchy. To beat this step, you have to spawn mimics in at very specific locations in the map, damage these mimics until they're pretty much one-shot, and trap them in an essence trap and return them to Speed Cola. What you're looking for when you place these essence traps are the names of 3 specific doctors: Sokolov, Brahms, and Sabine. Well, there are so many issues with this step that anytime you go to do this step, it is always annoying. For starters, if you spawn in a mimic at any part of the map outside of 3 very specific areas, then you can't work on a step in the same round. Because if you try to do this with a naturally spawned mimic, then it is guaranteed to be the wrong doctor. Even if you go to the right location, it will still be the wrong doctor guaranteed if another mimic spawns in the same round that you do this step. And like I said, the mimics can spawn not only as normal enemies in the map, but they will also spawn as mimic drops, and they will morph into equipment that's on the ground. If you run near this equipment, then a mimic will pop out of here and therefore ruin this step for this round. So if you just so happen to turn a corner and there's a mimic drop on the ground, and you didn't react to it in time and a mimic spawns here, then like I said, it'll fail the step and you can't do it on this round. And finally, what makes this step so bad is that even if you follow everything that I just said and you do this exactly right, then sometimes the step can still glitch out for absolutely 0 reason. When I ranted about this step in my worst thing about every map video, I had the Firebase Z Glazers getting really upset in the comments, and they were trying to gaslight me and say that I was lying and that's not how this step works. But I'm not lying. Everything that I said in this segment works exactly how I said. You know how? Because I tested it! Y'all were gaslighting me in the comments so bad, saying that I completely lied. So even though I verified how this step worked before I made that video, I just went back in and tried this step again for this video, and you'll never guess what happened. It glitched out on me multiple times. If you like Firebase Z, you do you. I think you have a terrible taste in zombie maps, but hey, you do you. But don't lie to me and say that this isn't how this step works when it very obviously is. It's a glitchy mess, it's not fun, and it's one of the worst steps in zombies history. Outbreak. First off, let me say these two quests are very short. The first quest has like 5 steps and the second quest has like 3. Starting with the first one though, in the 3 steps before the silo step, and no, I am not going with the goated silo step, I'm gonna say the worst quest in this egg is the radio step. For this step, you have to interact with the radio on round 3 on whatever map that you're loaded in on, and it'll give you feedback. When this happens, a bunch of enemies will spawn, and you'll have to take out every single one of them before the feedback will go away. Once it does, it'll give you a radio frequency in which you have to match on the 3 nearby amplifiers. Thing is though, is when you interact with these, they will also give you feedback, so you have to kill all the zombies that spawn for these amplifiers as well before you can continue changing them to the correct frequency. This step can feel pretty annoying sometimes because you'll just have to take out 3 to 4 hordes of enemies just to keep progressing. And for the second outbreak egg, I don't know. I guess the red portal step? This acts the exact same way as the radio step does on the last quest, where you have to go to a specific location of the map depending on what map you load in on, and you'll have to go into a red portal and you'll be spit back out near another red portal, and then you gotta go in this one too, and then a third one after that to finish the step. It's not really a bad step, don't get me wrong, but this Easter egg is insanely short, so I don't really have much to work with. Mauer der Toten. Mauer is another really enjoyable quest with pretty much no bad steps in it, but if I had to pick just one to be the worst, then I think I'd have to go with upgrading Klaus. Sometimes it can be boring just training a horde of zombies around Klaus for 30 seconds while he gets the 25 kills that he needs to be upgraded. And after he gets 25 kills, you have to grab a few parts and take him up to speed cola to be upgraded. Now, it is possible to do this in one Klaus activation if you're really good, but a decent amount of the time, Klaus will go away before you get to the upgrade station, which means you have to flip around and spend 2,000 points to call him back into the map. And also, once you get him in the upgrade station, you gotta defend him from zombies for 1 minute. And in this 1 minute, disciples and tormentors will spawn. And this can be pretty challenging on solo sometimes, especially if you're on a low round. This isn't really a bad step, and it's nowhere near as bad as like Firebase Z, for example. But like I said, I don't think Mauer really has any bad steps. But of course, as I've said like 4 times in this video, even if there's nothing bad, there's still always a worst. Forsaken. Getting the neutralizer parts. Forsaken's Easter egg is like 15 minutes long if you take it slow. But like Mauer, I don't really think there's anything offensive in here, so I'm just gonna give it to this. To get to 3 neutralizer parts, you have to do a 1-minute lockdown, and if you have the crystal axe at this point, which you most likely will, it's pretty much impossible for this step to be of any challenge to you. Then you get the second part by getting an abomination to charge at you in this corner to knock the part down, and for the third and final part, you have to get dead wire on your gun and kill a zombie near this arcade machine, then interact with it and drive an Arc XD across the street into this vent to unlock the final part. This is easily the most annoying of the 3 because if you hit an object or you just drive too fast, then your Arc XD will blow up and you'll have to pay more points to try driving it over again. This really isn't a bad step, but again, it's the worst. That's it for Cold War Zombies. Now let's jump on to Black Ops 6, starting with Terminus, the hard drive step. Not because it's a bad step, because it's not, but rather it's because of its prerequisites. For this step, you need the Beam Smasher Wonder Weapon, which, if you don't know, involves you spending 500 salvage on Deadwire, doing algebra, then driving all around this map to the 3 outer islands to charge a magazine to build it. And all you need the Beam Smasher for is this hard drive step, which is literally just shooting the Wonder Weapon at one of 3 vents around a map until it spits out the hard drive. That's literally the only reason you need the Wonder Weapon for this Easter egg, and it's pretty pointless. Now don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the Beam Smasher. It's one of my favorite modern zombies Wonder Weapons. But the fact that you have to build this for this step only really makes it feel like the step was only in this Easter egg purely to extend the Easter egg hunt, which I guess mission accomplished? But when I need to build a Wonder Weapon for the Easter egg, it should be for good reason. Like the pistols on Spaceland, for example. They're some of the best weapons for the SETICOM defense, the only efficient way to kill the aliens, and you also need them at the end to blow up the UFO. Whereas with this Easter egg, you only need it for this one hard drive step, which feels like a massive waste of time. Liberty Falls. Now I could go with the Jet Gun Water Valve step because man is that annoying, but if you're paying attention then you should know what I'm gonna pick because I'm gonna be consistent with what I said for like 4 other maps in this video because I'm going with the second LTG defense. You place the LTG down and defend it from zombies for 1 minute, then get the HVT that spawns really weak and kill him with the Dark Ether Trap to get a soul in the canister. Now it's not a bad step on paper, but like we went over in this video, when an Easter egg makes you do the exact same step as the one you just did, but it's slightly different, and in this map, the only difference on this step is that you have to get an Abomination one-shot instead of a Mangler. When there's no difference outside of that and it's just the same step over again, I think this has to be the worst. Citadel des Morts. the symbol step. This might be the single worst step in Black Ops 6 Zombies as a whole. After you craft the swords and incantations, you have to go to spawn and find 6 bottles in this room and interact with them and take a picture of the symbol and the Roman numeral that's on it. After you have the 6 symbols in here, you gotta buy melee macchiato and run to the complete opposite side of the map and melee this wall to reveal the symbols. You gotta shoot your 6 symbols in the same order that the Roman numerals told you, all while the symbols on this wall are pretty much constantly moving. And with how fast BO6 Zombies is, even if you're holding the last zombie in the round, this can be really annoying to do. And why do you gotta do this step, you ask? You have to do this symbol step to figure out the order for the next step in this Easter egg, the pointer power traps. This is just such a useless step, and it's really annoying to do, but thankfully you can skip this step entirely if you pay attention to the paper's locations when you first grab them. Either way though, like I said, the symbol step achieves nothing but waste your time. The Tomb. This is easily the shortest Easter egg in Black Ops 6, excluding the boss fight. To beat it, you have to upgrade the ice staff, then do 4 really short trials and you're in the boss fight. Because of this, I don't have much to work with. And as we went over in Revelations, I could very easily go with the rock step, or whatever you want to call it, when you're upgrading the ice staff, but instead, I'm going to go with the way you start the 4 trials. What you have to do is use the ice staff's revive ability on these statues. Since you have to shock 4 statues for 4 trials, and you only have 3 shots in your Sekhmet's Vigor, this means you either have to spend 10,000 points for more ammo in it, go grab the free max ammo, or burn rounds until you get a max ammo. Either way, it's not fun, but I don't really know what else to go with because like I said, this quest is short. Shattered Veil. Dishonorable mention to the book step because maybe I'm just stupid. Okay, I definitely am. But I still don't understand how to do this book step without brute forcing it. So please someone tell me down in the comments. That aside though, nothing in this egg really sticks out to me as being remotely bad. So this is yet another map where we're gonna go back on what we said in the intro because I am gonna pick a wonder weapon step. And if you play this map, you definitely know where I'm going with this. This is, of course, the Abomination step. When you place a canister in this machine, an Abomination will spawn down here and you have to take him and lure him to 3 specific rocks in here so that he will first shoot them with his beam, and then you want to try and bait him to do a charge attack into these rocks to raise them in the air. And believe me, if you've never done this step before, this sounds a lot easier than it actually is. When you're doing this step, the Abomination will sometimes just not do attacks. It seems like he always runs into the rocks before he shoots them, and he has to shoot them first before he can run into them, otherwise it won't work. And the cherry on top for this step, sometimes this step can completely glitch out so that even when he shoots them and then runs into them, the rocks won't raise, so you'll have to restart your game from the very beginning to try this again. And finally, for Black Ops 6, Reckoning. This one's obvious. It's obviously the mop bucket step. For the last step in this Easter egg before the boss fight, the last Easter egg step in Black Ops 6, you have to shoot a head outside of the map with the wonder weapon to drop it in the map, then you pick this head up and you place it in a wet mop bucket. But before we talk about that, let's rewind a bit and talk about how you actually get the water in the mop bucket. What you have to do is melee a random mop bucket out of a corner and get it under a water sprinkler, and then use a grenade on a nearby smoke detector to set off the sprinkler. Doing this will fill up the mop bucket with water. At this point, you can place a head in it and now it acts like a soul box. After this point, it's not a bad step, it's actually pretty good, but the part that I just went over is so dumb and so illogical, and also it is the last step before the DLC 4 boss fight. So in my opinion, there's even more points to take away from it. Now we're caught up with the most recent Zombies experience, Black Ops 7, starting with Ashes of the Damned. Now Ashes has one of the best Easter eggs, not just in modern zombies, but in zombies history. It has a fantastic flow with really unique steps, and if I'm gonna be completely honest, it really reminds me of all the good parts about Blood of the Dead's Easter egg. But one step in here that I don't like doing sometimes is grabbing the keys in the fog. After the serum step, you gotta find a red key, blue key, and a green key in the fog, and suck them in the map with the wonder weapon to pick them up. When you grab these keys, they will all give you some sort of debuff when you pick them up. The blue one will temporarily take away your guns and make you play melee only until you place this key in the cube, and that one's not too bad honestly. But the other two is where I think this gets annoying. The green key makes it to where you will move at snail's pace, and the red key makes it to where you instantly go to a 2-hit down and you won't regen your HP until you place this key in the cube. And keep in mind, you are doing this while you're in the fog, which if you haven't played this map, every single zombie in the fog is a super sprinter. This makes it very hard to outrun them with these keys, so a decent amount of the time, I find myself relying on Ether Shroud, decoy grenades, or just trying to manipulate the zombie's pathing with Tessie to grab the key. Now don't get me wrong, this is not a bad step at all. But to me, this is the only step in this Easter egg that's even remotely annoying to do. And finally, for the most recent map to release at the time of this recording, Astra Malorum. Now you could definitely go with getting the LGM because it is very tedious and it is a real round burner. So if you go with that, I wouldn't fight you on it at all. But there is one other step in this Easter egg I find to be really annoying, and that is grabbing the bird eye thing. Once you unlock access to Mars and shoot all 5 of these coils, a flying eye device thing will fly around the playable area and you gotta grab it. And this is way easier said than done sometimes. When you spawn it in, you have to keep shooting this 5th coil like every 10 or so seconds so it doesn't fly away. And also, if you accidentally shoot it, then that'll also make it fly away. And if it flies away, then you have to go to the next round and shoot all 5 coils again to bring it back. But to grab it, you have to keep shooting this coil and just wait for it to go somewhere in the map that you can jump up to, or wall bounce to it and interact with it out of the sky. A lot of the times when you do this step, the eye will just stay really high in the air and you have no other choice but to wait for it to stop being annoying and finally come in the map so you can grab it. Like I said, you could definitely go with the LGM steps, but like I said in the intro, unless I can't think of anything else as annoying in the Easter egg, I'm not going with that unless there is no other step in the egg I find annoying. And this bird eye thing I do find to be pretty annoying. And now that we went over every single Easter egg's worst step in my opinion, to close out the video, I want to talk about what I think are the 5 worst Easter egg steps that I've ever done. Like the entire video, this is my personal opinion, but I think my 5 least favorite Easter egg steps of all time are number 5, the Daniel step on 9, number 4, the safe step on Shadow Throne, number 3, the power step on Blood, number 2, the mimic step on Firebase, and of course, number 1, the island step on Carrier. All 5 of these steps I do not like at all. But there was my opinion for the worst Easter egg step in every single COD Zombies map. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like, comment your own list down below, and click this playlist to go watch what I think are the best and worst things about every single Zombies map. Not Easter egg steps, just anything in general. And real quick, before I end this video, I want to apologize for the lack of content lately. For the past month or so, I've had a lot of stuff going on in my life that has taken priority over making videos. I made a community post about this a couple weeks ago, but in case you didn't see that, that is why there hasn't been any content. I just have not had the time to because life is just being life. That said though, thankfully everything is seeming to get back to normal now, so I should be getting back to uploading as often as I did before. Shout out to my members, thank you guys so much for supporting me, and shout out to all of my new members, Woods, Cosmic, VSVP, I'm sorry I'm not saying your entire name. And additionally, I want to apologize to the members that became members before my Relic video, and I just so happened to not see them. So also shout out Jero, I think, Gnome, and someone named Goonin. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. I love each and every one of you. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and with that being said, I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.